Have you ever gazed up at the night sky and felt a whisper of something ancient, something far greater than ourselves? For centuries, the stars have not just been distant lights, they've been storytellers, weaving tales of gods, heroes, and cosmic mysteries that have shaped the very fabric of human belief. Across cultures and continents, from the whispered legends of medieval monks to the grand epics of forgotten civilizations, humanity has always sought to explain the divine through the lens of the cosmos. These aren't just stories, they're echoes of our deepest questions, our longing to understand where we come from and whether the universe itself might hold secrets older than time. Today, we're stepping into a realm where myth and cosmos collide, where the heavens aren't just a backdrop but a character in their own right. Picture this, a medieval scholar, hunched over parchment by candlelight, tracing constellations not as mere stars, but as divine footprints, evidence of celestial beings who once walked among us. These legends, passed down through generations, aren't just fanciful tales. They're the heartbeat of cultures that saw the universe as alive, pulsing with purpose. From the celestial knights of European folklore to the star-born deities of the East, these stories reveal a truth as dazzling as it is humbling, that our ancestors looked up and saw not emptiness but a mirror reflecting the sacred. What if I told you these cosmic legends hold more than just poetic beauty, that hidden within them are clues not just about the past, but about the human spirit's unshakable need to reach beyond the known? Over the next 35 timeless tales, we'll journey through the most extraordinary myths of divine origins, each one a thread in the vast tapestry of our shared imagination. These aren't just stories of gods and monsters, they're blueprints of belief, maps of how medieval minds dared to explain the unexplainable. So settle in, because by the end of this, you won't just hear these legends, you'll feel them like starlight on your skin, reminding you that the cosmos has always been closer than we think. The first legend whispers of a time before time, when the universe was not yet born, only silence stretching endlessly in the void. Then from the darkness came a sound. Not a crash or a roar, but a single, perfect note trembling through the emptiness, and with it the first voice of the celestial choir. Medieval scribes described this choir as a gathering of divine beings, not gods of stone or flesh, but entities woven from pure harmony. Their song was no mere melody, it was the very act of creation. Each note spun galaxies into being, every chord shaped the orbits of planets, and the rhythm of their voices pulsed like a heartbeat through the cosmos. What's fascinating is how this myth echoes across cultures. The Hindu Rigveda speaks of the universe emerging from the sacred syllable Om, a vibration that set all things into motion. Polynesian legends tell of Tain, the god of forests, who sang the world into existence. Even the Bible whispers of creation through the word, a divine utterance that called light from darkness. It's as if our ancestors, separated by oceans and centuries, all heard the same cosmic hum in their dreams. Medieval scholars saw proof of this choir in the stars themselves. They called it the music of the spheres, a hidden harmony they believed governed the movement of celestial bodies. To them, planets didn't just orbit, they sang. The mathematician Pythagoras even claimed to hear this music, a secret symphony only the purest souls could perceive. And if you look closely at medieval manuscripts, you'll find celestial diagrams where constellations are not just dots but musical notes on a grand cosmic staff. But perhaps the most haunting thought is this: what if the choir never stopped singing? What if their voices still echo in the spin of electrons, the dance of galaxies, even the beating of our own hearts? After all, modern science tells us the universe vibrates from the hum of gravitational waves to the resonance of distant quasars. Maybe our ancestors weren't just telling stories. Maybe they were listening. Legend too swirls with shadows and starlight, a tale not of creation but of silent observation. They call them the Watchers of the Void, beings so ancient they existed before the first constellations took shape. Medieval texts describe them as towering figures draped in cloaks of shifting darkness, their eyes like polished obsidian mirrors reflecting entire galaxies. But here's the chilling detail: they never interfered. They simply watched, unblinking, as empires rose and crumbled, as children were born and elders returned to dust. Some accounts claim these beings descended not to walk among us, but to hover at the edges of human sight. A 12th century French monk wrote of a village that awoke to find 7 shadowy figures standing knee-deep in a frozen river, motionless for 3 days and nights until a storm swallowed them whole. In Ethiopia, illuminated manuscripts depict winged entities perched on mountaintops, recording every human deed in books of pulsating light. Even the Dead Sea Scrolls whisper of those who dwell between the stars, guardians of a knowledge too terrible for mortal minds. What ties these stories together is their eerie resemblance to modern encounters. Replace medieval parchment with smartphone footage, and the watchers sound unsettlingly like today's UFO phenomena: silent triangles hovering over farms, elongated figures glimpsed in desert canyons. A Navajo elder once told me their ancestors spoke of star people who came to tally our wars, a phrase that mirrors a 15th century German chronicle accusing the watchers of counting sins like grains of wheat. Perhaps most compelling is how science unintentionally echoes this myth. The Fermi paradox, the haunting question of why we've found no evidence of extraterrestrial life, feels almost poetic when set beside these legends. If intelligent life exists out there, why wouldn't it observe without revealing itself? Modern astrophysicists speak of monitoring probes, theoretically small enough to float unseen in our atmosphere, while medieval alchemists wrote of invisible sentinels woven from the fabric of space itself. One Byzantine text offers a clue buried in its margins: they watch not to judge but to remember. In an age where our own satellites silently document every inch of the planet, that line lingers like smoke. Maybe the watchers aren't gods or aliens, but something far stranger: librarians of the cosmos, preserving our fleeting existence in some grand celestial archive. After all, what's more human than the fear of being forgotten? And what's more divine than the promise that someone, somewhere, is bearing witness? There's something primal about the image of a serpent coiled around the world, something that sends a shiver down your spine whether you hear it in a medieval monastery or a modern-day laboratory. Legend 3 speaks of Jörmungandr, the Midgard serpent of Norse myth, who grew so vast his body could encircle the earth and grasp his own tail. But this isn't just a Viking tale. From the temples of ancient Egypt to the alchemy labs of 15th century Europe, cultures across time have whispered of the cosmic serpent, a deity so immense its scales hold galaxies and its breath steers the motion of the stars. What makes this myth so enduring is its eerie marriage of destruction and renewal. The serpent's bite is venomous, capable of poisoning entire worlds, yet its embrace is also the ultimate symbol of cyclical rebirth. Medieval alchemists called this the Ouroboros, the serpent devouring its own tail, and they scribbled it in the margins of their manuscripts like a secret code. To them, it wasn't just an image, it was the key to transmutation. The snake eating itself represented the endless loop of decay and regeneration, the very process that turned lead into gold or a soul into something divine. Astrologers saw the serpent's influence written in the heavens. The constellation Draco, winding between Ursa Major and Minor, was thought to be the serpent's celestial echo, its tail knotted around the axis of the sky. Some medieval star charts even depict the moon's phases as the serpent's slow, rhythmic swallowing of its own body. And if that sounds like superstition, consider this: modern astronomy reveals that galaxies themselves often spiral like coiled snakes, their arms curling inward in an endless dance of collapse and rebirth. But here's where the legend twists. In Aztec cosmology, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, didn't just encircle the world, he was the world. His scales were the mountains, his breath the wind, and his veins the rivers that carved the land. This idea bled into medieval Europe through rare, smuggled texts where alchemists began to wonder, what if the serpent wasn't just a symbol but the literal fabric of reality? A living, breathing lattice that held the universe together. The most haunting accounts come from the Icelandic Völuspá, where Jörmungandr releases his tail at the end of days, unleashing chaos yet also clearing the way for a new world to rise. It's a mirror to the Hindu concept of the cosmic serpent Ananta, whose infinite coils cushion the god Vishnu as he dreams creation into being. Even the Bible's Leviathan, that monstrous sea serpent, shares hints of this duality, a destroyer whose very existence hints at divine order. So next time you see a snake shed its skin, remember, our ancestors weren't just spinning campfire tales. They were tracing the contours of a truth as old as time, that endings are woven into beginnings, and the universe itself might just be held in the silent, eternal grip of something vast, wise, and waiting. Deep in the molten heart of the cosmos, where space itself glows white-hot, Legend 4 speaks of a being who doesn't just shape metal, he forges stars. The Star Smith, as medieval texts call him, appears in countless guises. The Roman Vulcan hammering celestial armor, the West African Ogun crafting blades from meteorites, even the Hindu Vishwakarma bending beams of starlight into chariots for gods. But what unites these myths is the uncanny precision with which they describe stellar birth, long before telescopes revealed the truth. Picture the scene, a cavernous workshop floating in the void, its walls forged from superheated plasma. Here, the Starsmith works his anvil, each strike sending shockwaves through the fabric of space. Norse skalds sang of sparks from his hammer becoming novas, while Byzantine alchemists wrote of his bellows stoking the inner fires of distant suns. But the most striking detail, these tales often describe the smith as crippled Vulcan's lameness, Hephaestus's limp, a paradox for a being of such power. Some scholars argue this represents the violent, uneven process of star formation itself, where perfection emerges from cosmic turbulence. Medieval metallurgists saw proof of the smith's craft in their own forges. When crafting swords, they'd chant incantations to align their work with the celestial flame, believing a well-made blade should mirror the balance of a star's core. Records from Toledo's steel workshops describe smiths timing their hammer blows to planetary alignments, convinced the smith's rhythm pulsed through the heavens. Even the colors of heated metal, from cherry red to blinding white, matched medieval descriptions of stars classified by temperament, as if each sun bore the mark of its forging. Science now reveals how eerily close these myths skirt reality. Stars are born in cosmic forges, dense nebulas where gravity and pressure collide. The shockwaves from dying supernovas trigger new star formation, like a divine hammer striking an anvil. And that lameness, modern astronomy shows star birth is messy, with protostars often ejecting material unevenly, limping as they ignite. Even the elements in your body, iron in your blood, calcium in your bones, were literally forged in stellar cores, making us all children of the Starsmith's workshop. Perhaps the most haunting version comes from the Lakota, who speak of fallen star, a divine being who scattered embers across the sky to guide wanderers. It's a poetic mirror to how supernovas seed space with heavy elements, enabling new worlds and life to form. So next time you see Orion's belt, remember, those three stars might not just be distant suns, but the lingering glow of an ancient anvil still warm to the touch. Among the coldest reaches of space, where stars cluster like diamonds scattered on black velvet, Legend 5 glimmers with celestial intrigue, the luminous ones of the Pleiades. To the naked eye, this star cluster is a hazy smudge, but medieval sky watchers saw something far more profound. 7 radiant figures, their light so pure it could guide souls across oceans and through the darkest nights. From Polynesian navigators who steered by their glow to Byzantine monks who claimed they whispered secrets to saints, the Pleiades weren't just stars, they were beings. The myth begins with their arrival. Japanese folklore tells of 7 kami, divine spirits who descended from the cluster to teach humanity the art of weaving, linking the stars to the threads of fate. The Aztecs called them the fire drill stars, believing their alignment signaled the rebirth of the world. But it's in medieval Europe where the tale takes a haunting turn. Manuscripts from the 12th century speak of the 7 sisters as celestial nuns, their light a holy beacon for lost travelers. One Welsh legend even claims that if you stood atop Snowdonia at midnight, you could hear their voices humming in harmony with the wind. What's striking is how these stories mirror practical astronomy. The Pleiades cluster, though home to hundreds of stars, prominently showcases 7 bright enough to see without a telescope. Medieval navigators relied on them to calibrate their compasses, and farmers used their position to predict harvests, proof that myth and survival were entwined. A 15th-century Portuguese mariner's journal describes the luminous ones as floating lanterns, their light so steady it outshone the unreliable North Star during monsoon season. Yet the darker threads of the legend unsettle even skeptics. In Greek myth, one of the 7 sisters, Merope, fades to near invisibility, said to be hiding in shame for loving a mortal. Medieval Arab astronomers noted a 7th star that dimmed as if veiled, while the Maori of New Zealand speak of a lost sister, chased into oblivion by the demon Tika. Modern astronomy reveals a chilling coincidence. One of the Pleiades' major stars does vary in brightness, its light obscured by drifting cosmic dust, as if the legends were interpreting celestial phenomena long before science could name them. Perhaps the most haunting connection lies in sound. In 2013, scientists translated the electromagnetic vibrations of the Pleiades into audible tones, a process called sonification. The result, a chorus of eerie, bell-like notes, uncannily harmonious. It's a phenomenon that would have made medieval monks nod knowingly. Their manuscripts often describe the cluster as the bells of heaven's chapel. Even today, standing beneath the Pleiades on a clear night, you might understand why cultures across time insisted these weren't mere stars, but luminous witnesses singing an old song of guidance and loss. High above the swirling mists of Earth, where the fabric of the sky thins to a luminous veil, Legend 6 speaks of a bridge, not of stone or wood, but woven from strands of pure celestial light. The Bridge of Souls appears in countless medieval texts as a shimmering pathway arcing from the highest mountaintops to the heart of the Milky Way, a thoroughfare for departed spirits and divine messengers alike. Norse myths named it Bifrost, a rainbow aflame with ember red and gold, guarded by the watchful god Heimdall. Persian mystics called it Chinvat, a razor-thin span where the weight of one's deeds determined eternal passage or plummeting ruin. But what makes this myth endure isn't just its poetic beauty, it's how eerily it mirrors the very structure of reality. Medieval artists depicted the bridge with obsessive detail. In the vaulted ceilings of Catalan churches, frescoes show it as a ladder of intersecting beams, each rung inscribed with constellations. A 13th-century German psalter illustrates it as a vortex of twisting light, with souls ascending like sparks drawn upward by some cosmic draft. But the most haunting renditions come from Tibetan thankas, where the bridge transforms mid-painting solid under the feet of enlightened beings, yet dissolving like mist for those burdened by attachment. These artists weren't just imagining, they were encoding observations. The aurora borealis, with its rippling curtains of light, likely inspired Bifrost's flaming hues, while the zodiacal light, a faint glow along the ecliptic plane, may have shaped the idea of a literal highway through the heavens. Now here's where the legend twists into prophecy. Modern physics speaks of Einstein-Rosen bridges, theoretical wormholes that could connect distant points in spacetime. Just like the medieval bridge, these cosmic shortcuts aren't static tunnels but dynamic, warping structures that might only stabilize under specific conditions. String theory takes it further, suggesting higher dimensions where such bridges could exist like threads stitching through the folds of reality. even quantum entanglement, that bizarre phenomenon where particles influence each other instantly across vast distances, echoes the bridge's function as an instantaneous link between realms. The most spine-tingling parallel lies in consciousness studies. Neurotheology research reveals that during near-death experiences, subjects from disparate cultures describe remarkably similar journeys: a tunnel, a light, a crossing. Medieval monks would have nodded knowingly. Their manuscripts often depicted dying saints reaching for a luminous bridge only they could see. Whether these visions are neurological glitches or glimpses of something deeper, the consistency across millennia is unsettling. Perhaps the bridge's greatest lesson is one of connection. From the silica threads in our cell membranes that resemble fiber optic cables to the mycorrhizal networks linking forest trees underground, nature thrives on bridges both seen and unseen. So when you next gaze at a rainbow arching over storm-darkened hills, remember, our ancestors may have been onto something more than metaphor. That fleeting curve of light could be the ghostly imprint of a truth we're only beginning to grasp: that all things from quark to quasar are tethered by threads too fine for eyes but not for imagination. Imagine a universe where the stars don't just move, they tick, each orbit a perfect gear in a grand celestial machine. This is the vision behind Legend 7, the Clockwork Cosmos, a medieval belief that the heavens operated with the precision of an artisan's finest creation. From the clattering automata in Byzantine palaces to the towering astronomical clocks of Prague, our ancestors saw divinity not just in chaos, but in the relentless, rhythmic order of the skies. They believed the universe itself was an intricate timepiece wound into motion by an unseen hand, and in their obsession with gears and pendulums, they may have stumbled upon a truth modern physics is only now beginning to grasp. The evidence lies in the machines they left behind. Take the Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old Greek device so complex it could predict eclipses and track planetary movements with eerie accuracy. Medieval monks, poring over fragmented texts describing such wonders, became convinced the cosmos hid similar mechanisms behind its veil. By the 14th century, European cathedrals boasted clocks like the one in Strasbourg, where mechanical apostles paraded beneath a rotating zodiac while a gilded rooster crowed at noon. These weren't just timekeepers, they were devotional objects, mirrors of a universe governed by divine engineering. Alchemists took the metaphor further. In their secret workshops, they built miniature orreries, clockwork models of the solar system, believing that by replicating celestial motion, they could touch the mind of the maker. One manuscript from Toledo describes a self-writing quill powered by hidden springs, said to inscribe messages from the celestial scribe who kept the cosmic ledger. Even the stars' regularity fed the myth. Medieval astronomers noted how planetary orbits adhered to ratios as precise as the interlocking teeth of a gear. Yet the most startling parallel emerges today: the simulation hypothesis. The idea that our universe might be an artificial construct echoes the medieval clockmaker's vision with uncanny symmetry. Modern physicists speak of the fine-tuning problem, the inexplicable precision of universal constants that allow life to exist. To a 14th-century scholar, this would have been proof of the divine winder adjusting the celestial gears. Even quantum indeterminacy, where particles behave unpredictably, finds its mirror in medieval texts describing tiny imperfections in the cosmic mechanism, a feature, not a flaw, ensuring the machine didn't grow stagnant. Perhaps the most haunting artifact sits in Venice's Museo Cora, a 16th-century automaton of a friar, its wooden hands moving in perpetual prayer. Its creator claimed it mirrored the prayer of the spheres, the idea that planets hummed hymns as they turned. Listen closely to the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, and you'll hear it too, a near-perfect harmonic resonance, as if the universe really is a music box set spinning long ago. The question isn't whether our ancestors were right about the mechanics, But why, across 600 years, the image of a wound-up cosmos still keeps perfect time with our hunger for meaning? When a streak of fire split the night sky in 1066, scribes across Europe dropped their quills in terror. Halley's comet had returned, and to medieval eyes, its blazing tail wasn't just a cosmic curiosity, it was a scream from the heavens. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle records it as a sign in the sky such as no man had ever seen, while Norman chroniclers claim Duke William himself took it as a divine endorsement for his invasion of England. But this was far from an isolated fear. For centuries, comets were the original celestial messengers, not silent lights, but volatile, hissing enigmas that shattered the illusion of an orderly universe. What set comets apart was their unpredictability. Unlike the steady march of planets or the reliable twinkle of constellations, these long-haired stars appeared without warning, often lingering for weeks like uninvited guests. Byzantine emperors consulted astrologers the moment one appeared, convinced they carried encrypted warnings from the divine. A 9th-century Irish text describes a comet's tail as the torn cloak of an angry god, its tattered edges foretelling years of famine. Even Charlemagne's court scholars debated whether comets were celestial serpents, their venomous breath poisoning the air with plague, a belief that resurfaced horrifically during the Black Death, when a comet's appearance coincided with the pandemic's darkest days. Yet not all whispers were dire. In China, comet sightings were meticulously recorded as guest stars, their paths scoured for clues to imperial destiny. The Bayeux Tapestry famously stitches Halley's comet hovering over King Harold's doomed court, but less known is the Aztec legend of Citlal the smoking star, whose appearance in 1491 was said to herald the god Quetzalcoatl's return, a prophecy that, decades later, twisted into tragedy when Cortés arrived under similarly timed celestial omens. Medieval Jewish mystics saw comets as divine paintbrushes, their tails inscribing hidden messages in Aramaic across the firmament, while Polynesian navigators revered them as ancestral spirits streaking homeward. The science behind these myths is just as mesmerizing. We now know comets are icy time capsules, remnants of the solar system's birth, but their tails, ionized gas glowing under solar radiation, do literally speak in a way. The European Space Agency's Rosetta probe detected complex organic molecules on Comet 67P, including glycine, a building block of life. Imagine telling a medieval monk that the harbinger of doom he trembled at actually carried the ingredients for existence itself. Even their eerie silence has been debunked. Converted to sound waves, comet magnetic fields produce unearthly chirps and warbles uncannily like the choirs of the dead, described in Tibetan comet lore. Perhaps the most poignant twist lies in metamorphosis. The same cultures that feared comets also celebrated their aftermath. Farmers from Normandy to Nagasaki noted how years with spectacular comet displays often brought bumper crops, unaware the cosmic visitors had fertilized soil with nitrogen-rich dust. Modern astronomy confirms that comet impacts may have seeded Earth with water and amino acids. So next time you see a comet smear across a star chart, remember, our ancestors weren't entirely wrong to call them messengers. They just didn't realize the letters were written in the chemistry of life itself. Hidden in the swirling arms of our galaxy, where stardust gathers like spilled wine across the night, lies a legend older than Camelot, the chalice of the Milky Way. Medieval alchemists whispered of it as a vessel not of gold or silver, but of pure crystallized starlight, its rim curved like the orbit of planets, its depths holding the first waters of creation. To sip from it, they claimed, was to taste the essence of time itself. But this wasn't just a cup, it was the ultimate alchemical puzzle, a cosmic grail whose form shifted with the observer. To astronomers, it resembled the galactic core's gravitational well. To Arthurian scribes, it was the Holy Grail's celestial twin, lost not in some earthly chapel but adrift in the river of stars we now call the Milky Way. The connection between Grail lore and galactic myth runs deeper than metaphor. 12th century manuscripts describe the Grail as emitting a light, not of sun or flame, but of 10,000 distant suns, an eerie foreshadowing of how we now perceive the combined glow of the galaxy's core. Wolfram von Eschenbach's Parzival goes further, depicting the Grail as guarded by a brotherhood who could read the script of the heavens upon its surface, lines modern astrophysicists recognize as the filamentary structures of interstellar gas. Even the Grail's legendary ability to provide sustenance mirrors the Milky Way's role as the nourisher in countless cultures, from the Hindu Akashaganga, the celestial Ganges, to the Navajo's corn pollen path. Alchemists fixated on the chalice's shape, sketching it as a hyperbolic curve that defied Euclidean geometry. Their diagrams show uncanny resemblances to what we now identify as the galaxy's rotation profile, the way stars move faster at the center, as if caught in a divine whirlpool. One particularly cryptic text from 15th century Toledo describes the chalice's stem as a ladder of black holes, a phrase that chills when you consider modern theories of supermassive black holes anchoring galactic centers. Another manuscript, hidden for centuries in a Moldavian monastery, claims the vessel's rim was inscribed with the names of unborn stars, a poetic nod to the stellar nurseries we've since photographed in the Orion Arm. The most haunting parallels emerge in ritual. Grail seekers spoke of a trial called the Gauntlet of Mirrors, where aspirants had to navigate a corridor of shifting reflections, a near-perfect allegory for how galactic gravity bends light, creating natural lenses that distort our view of the cosmos. Modern telescopes use this very phenomenon, gravitational lensing, to peer deeper into space. Even the Grail's fabled power of immortality finds a scientific echo in the galactic center's extreme environments, where radiation-resistant microbes might survive for eons, and theoretical physicists speculate about time dilation effects near supermassive black holes. Perhaps the legend's greatest gift is its lesson in perspective. To the naked eye, the Milky Way appears as a faint, milky streak, a careless spill across the heavens. But to cultures from the Quechua to the Norse, it was a road, a river, a serpent, or a chalice brimming with the universe's secrets. Today, when we point telescopes toward Sagittarius A, the supermassive black hole at our galaxy's heart, we're unwittingly continuing the Grail quest not for a cup, but for the physics-defying forces that bind the cosmos together. The chalice was never lost. We've been standing in its shadow all along. There's a reason the grandest cathedrals of the Middle Ages stretch their vaulted ceilings toward the heavens. They were built in the shadow of giants. Not just any giants, but the celestial ones, the titans of medieval cosmology who bore the weight of the cosmos on their shoulders. Among them, none loomed larger than the archetypal figure we know as Atlas, though his name changed with the language of those who whispered it. To Norse skalds, he was Hymir, gripping the skull of Ymir to form the cosmic bowl of the sky. Hindu astronomers spoke of Akupara, the world turtle whose shell sprouted mountains that propped up the firmament. But everywhere, the story remained the same. The heavens needed pillars, and someone, or something, had to hold them up. The genius of these myths lies in how they transformed abstract astronomy into visceral, human-scale drama. Medieval scholars didn't just theorize about celestial mechanics, they personified them. A 13th century manuscript from Chartres depicts the sky titan as a burly mason, his muscles straining under a stone dome studded with embedded stars, his feet planted on lunar gears that turn the spheres. The cathedral's own architecture mirrored this vision. Its columns weren't mere supports but earthly echoes of cosmic pillars, each capital carved with zodiac signs to show the connection between stone and sky. Even the ribbed vaulting overhead evoked the idea of celestial weight distribution, as if the craftsmen were encoding astrophysical principles into sacred geometry. What's fascinating is how these myths intersected with practical astronomy. Before gravity was understood, the question of why the stars didn't simply fall was answered by these titanic custodians. An Arabic star atlas from Cordoba labels Orion not as a hunter but as Al-Jabbar, the giant, his upraised arms propping the Milky Way's arch. Chinese sky charts show the red star Antares as the heart of a celestial warrior whose spear maintained the ecliptic's angle. These weren't arbitrary choices. Observe Antares through a telescope, and you'll notice it pulses rhythmically like a laboring heartbeat. Our ancestors saw that throbbing light and imagined exertion. The darkest variation comes from Easter Island, where oral traditions speak of the god Uok, who used a lever to pry up sections of the sky before it grew too heavy and crushed him. Listen closely to that tale, and you'll hear an eerie premonition of black holes, regions where space-time itself buckles under impossible mass. Even the Titans, it seems, had limits. Perhaps the most poignant legacy of these myths is how they've seeped into modern language. We still speak of shouldering burdens or holding up the sky in times of crisis. The Hubble Space Telescope's images of galactic filaments, those vast thread-like structures connecting galaxy clusters, look unnervingly like the straining tendons of some unseen colossus. Maybe our ancestors weren't entirely wrong. After all, doesn't dark matter, that invisible cosmic scaffold, serve the same function as their titans, holding everything together silently, relentlessly, while we look up and wonder? Long before telescopes pierced the night, the moon's pockmarked face inspired more than just poetry. It sparked visions of entire civilizations hidden in its ashen plains. Medieval scholars called them Selenites, a race of crystalline beings who dwelled in vast subterranean cities beneath the lunar surface, their bodies forged from the same luminous stone that made the moon glow. A 12th century Arabic manuscript describes them as tall as minarets with skin like crushed pearls, building towers of translucent moonstone that refracted starlight into liquid gold. Leonardo da Vinci filled his notebooks with sketches of lunar canals and geometric cities, convinced the dark patches visible to the naked eye were engineered reservoirs for some advanced society. Even the great astronomer Johannes Kepler penned a sci-fi tale about moon-dwelling demons who hibernated during the long lunar night, their breath forming the craters we see today. What fueled these myths was the moon's eerie duality, so close we could trace its scars, yet so alien in its silence. Medieval farmers swore they heard faint chimes during lunar eclipses, a phenomenon now attributed to temperature shifts cracking surface rocks, but back then taken as proof of distant forges or celestial bell towers. A Bavarian monk's diary from 1357 recounts a vision of glass domes as wide as kingdoms on the moon's far side, while Chinese star maps labeled certain craters as the Jade Rabbit's Mortar, where mythical pharmacists pounded immortality elixirs. The most haunting account comes from Persia, where poets told of a lunar princess who wove tapestries from comet tails, her loom visible in the shadows of the moon's Maria during certain phases. The science behind these stories is just as mesmerizing. When Apollo astronauts brought back moon rocks, they discovered minerals like anorthosite that refract light in prismatic bursts, exactly the living crystal described in those medieval texts. The moon's mascons, those mysterious gravitational anomalies beneath its basins, align eerily with legends of sunken citadels distorting the ground above them. Even the transient lunar phenomena, fleeting flashes of light observed for centuries, now have plausible explanations in outgassing or meteor strikes, but to pre-telescope cultures, they were the lanterns of subterranean dwellers or the glint of colossal mirrors. Perhaps the most poignant twist lies in modern exploration. The same lava tubes medieval scholars imagined as selenite cathedrals are now prime targets for future lunar bases' natural radiation shelters with stable temperatures. Those canals Da Vinci drew, they're real, in a sense, sinuous rills carved by ancient magma flows. Even the moon's hollow-sounding seismic vibrations, once interpreted as vast cavern networks, find new relevance in theories about subsurface ice deposits. The old myths weren't entirely wrong, they were premature. The moon may not harbor crystal giants, but it does hold vaults of frozen water, caverns big enough to house cities, and whispers of resources that could sustain human life. Our ancestors gazed up and saw a kingdom. Turns out they just mistook the blueprint for the throne. There's a hunt that never ends, its quarry forever just out of reach, a stag woven from starlight, its antlers branching like the limbs of the world tree. This is the cosmic hunt, a legend etched into the night sky from the frozen tundras of Siberia to the misty forests of medieval Europe. To the Lakota, it was Taamni, the celestial elk whose hoofbeats shook loose the stars. The Norse saw it as Eikthenir, the stag whose horns dripped dew into the roots of Yggdrasil. But in the star charts of the Middle Ages, it took on a new form, the white hart, a beast so pure its hide reflected the moon, pursued eternally by huntsmen whose arrows were made of comet fire. The roots of this myth run deeper than folklore. Pagan tribes across Eurasia timed their actual hunts to the stag's celestial counterpart, the constellation we now call Orion. His belt's 3 stars were the hunter's arrow, aimed at Taurus the bull, whose V-shaped face also resembled antlers in early star maps. Medieval monks, copying these pagan traditions into their illuminated manuscripts, gave the stag Christian symbolism, a representation of Christ pursued by the devil or the soul fleeing earthly temptation. Heraldry adopted it too. The white hart became the emblem of kings, most famously Richard Roman II, who wore it as a badge to signify his divine right to rule. A 15th-century tapestry in the Cloisters Museum shows the moment vividly. The hart leaps across a midnight blue field, its body constellated with tiny pearls meant to mimic stars. But the most haunting detail lies in the hunt's impossibility. No matter how close the celestial pursuers seem, the stag never falls. The Hungarian tradition of the silver stag claims its blood is the aurora borealis, spilled but never exhausted. A Scottish variation says the creature's breath crystallizes into the morning dew. Even modern astronomy echoes this endless chase. Barnard's Loop, that vast nebula arcing near Orion's sword, looks uncannily like a hunter's snare frozen mid-snap. The legend's persistence makes eerie sense when you consider early stargazers' tools. Before telescopes, tracking a star's movement required imagining it as prey, measuring its drift against fixed landmarks like trees or temple pillars. The stag wasn't just a story, it was a celestial coordinate system. Inuit navigators used its antlers to mark the solstices, while medieval alchemists aligned their crucibles when it leaped the zenith, believing its passage charged metals with transformative energy. Perhaps the most poignant twist comes from archaeology. In 2019, a cave in Germany revealed 12,000-year-old carvings of a stag beside a human figure, holding what might be the Pleiades, proof that the cosmic hunt predates writing itself. Today, when we point telescopes at Orion's belt, we're unknowingly continuing that ancient vigil, still watching, still waiting for the stag to finally be caught. In the moment a star dies, tearing itself apart in a final, furious blaze, something miraculous emerges from the ashes, not an end but a beginning. This is the firebird, a celestial phoenix whose legend appears in cultures separated by oceans and centuries, always tied to those brilliant, catastrophic explosions in the night sky. Medieval bestiaries described it in shimmering detail: wings of molten gold, eyes like captured supernova, and a cry that rang through the heavens like the birth of a universe. But this wasn't just poetic fancy. These ancient chroniclers were unknowingly documenting one of nature's most astonishing processes, the death and rebirth of stars. The firebird's mythos thrived in the liminal space between destruction and renewal. In Russian folklore, it was a creature of living flame whose feathers could light entire cities, but only if plucked as it immolated itself. Persian astronomers wrote of the simurgh, a cosmic bird that nested in the tree of life, its cyclical deaths and resurrections mirroring the orbits of planets. Even the Aztec Huhucoyotl, the trickster coyote who danced in stellar explosions, shares threads of this archetype. but the most haunting accounts come from medieval Europe, where alchemists interpreted supernova, like the one that blazed in 1054, visible even in daylight, as the firebird's self-sacrifice. A manuscript from Montpellier depicts it vividly, a winged creature dissolving into a whirlpool of light, its body scattering into thousands of glowing seeds that would birth new stars. What's chilling is how closely these myths align with astrophysics. We now know that supernova forge the heaviest elements in their cores: gold, platinum, uranium, scattering them across space to form planets and eventually life. The firebird's feathers of legend, they're the tendrils of ionized gas we see in nebulas like Cassiopeia A, where a star's remnants twist into shapes eerily reminiscent of wings. Even the timing fits. Medieval Chinese records note that the 1054 supernova remained visible for over 2 years, exactly how long their myths claimed the firebird's resurrection cycle lasted. Alchemists took the symbolism further, believing the firebird's cyclical nature held the secret to the Philosopher's Stone. They studied stellar explosions through primitive telescopes, convinced the colors of dying stars, blue shifting to red as they cooled, mimicked the stages of their sacred transmutations. A 15th-century German text describes a recipe for avian quintessence, using metals only found in meteorites, which we now know originate from supernova. Their experiments failed, but their intuition was uncanny. We are quite literally made of star stuff, our blood's iron forged in those same cataclysms. The firebird's greatest lesson might be one of perspective. Modern telescopes like Hubble have captured protostars igniting within the wreckage of supernova, literal rebirths from cosmic graves. In the Crab Nebula, the pulsar at its heart spins 30 times per second, a newborn phoenix dancing in the ashes of its predecessor. So when you next see a shooting star, remember, it might not be a death but a feather falling from some celestial wing, heralding a transformation too vast for mortal eyes to fully grasp. The firebird never truly dies, it just becomes the sky. Spinning silently in the infinite dark, there exists a loom older than time, a web-woven knot of silk but of the very threads of destiny. This is the weaver of the cosmos, a figure who appears across cultures as a celestial spider, her 8 limbs plucking the strands of fate like a harpist tuning the universe. Norse skalds knew her as the Norns, 3 sisters who carved runes into Yggdrasil's roots, each etching a life's path into the bark. Medieval tapestry makers in France whispered of a divine arachnid whose web shimmered with trapped starlight, each intersecting thread a crossroads of human choice. Even today, when physicists speak of string theory, those infinitesimal filaments vibrating in 11 dimensions, they echo the oldest legend of all, that reality itself is a tapestry in progress, forever being stitched by unseen hands. Look closely at the Bayeux tapestry, and you'll spot the metaphor made literal. Woven into its borders are spiders, their delicate webs mirroring the crisscrossing threads of conquest and betrayal in the main panels. This wasn't just decoration. Medieval artisans believed cloth held power. To weave was to imitate the cosmos, with warps and wefts symbolizing the divine and mortal realms interlacing. A 12th century Flemish manuscript describes nuns praying before a loom, calling it the lesser wheel of fortune, its spindle representing the axis mundi around which all lives revolve. The most haunting example lies in Switzerland's Abbey of St. Gall, where a hidden embroidery depicts the Virgin Mary not with a halo but seated at a loom, her shuttle weaving the Milky Way into being. Science now offers spine-tingling parallels. String theory's fundamental filaments quivering in the quantum foam uncannily resemble the Norns' threads vibrating with potential. The cosmic web of galaxies, that vast network of dark matter connecting star clusters, mirrors the weaver's loom on an unimaginable scale. Even Diné's double helix finds its precursor in Norse myth, where the Norns' threads were said to twist around each soul like the serpent and the ladder combined. When CERN physicists trace particle collisions, they're essentially reading the Weaver's latest stitches, subatomic events that ripple through spacetime's fabric. Perhaps the most profound twist lies in the Weaver's imperfection. Armenian legends speak of a spider goddess who purposefully leaves gaps in her web, allowing mortals to slip through predetermined destinies. The Norns, too, were known to fray their threads unexpectedly, explaining life's sudden tragedies. Modern chaos theory nods to this idea, tiny fluctuations altering vast outcomes, while quantum indeterminacy suggests the loom's pattern isn't fixed but probabilistic. Even the Great Attractor, that mysterious gravitational anomaly pulling our galaxy toward it, feels like a tug on the cosmic web's threads, a divine adjustment in progress. So next time you see dew clinging to a spiderweb at dawn, consider this. Our ancestors may have been right about the universe's nature, if not its mechanics. The Milky Way isn't just a streak of stars, it's the Weaver's unfinished edge fraying into the dark. Every choice you make adds another stitch, and somewhere in the vastness, 8 luminous limbs never stop spinning. There's a second sun in our sky, one you can't see, one that burns black. This is the legend of the Black Sun, a celestial twin whispered about in medieval occult scrolls and carved into the stones of secret societies. Unlike its golden counterpart, this dark star radiates no light, only invisible influence, tugging at the edges of human history like a shadow puppet master. The 12th century mystic Hildegard of Bingen wrote of it as the Unmaker's Eye, a lurking presence that occasionally stirred comets from their slumber. In alchemical texts, it was depicted as an inverted sun, its rays sucking energy inward rather than radiating outward, an eerie foreshadowing of what we now call black holes. What makes this myth so unsettling is its persistence across disciplines. The Black Sun appears in Norse runestones as a wheel of darkened gold, symbolizing the hidden cycles of destruction and rebirth. Kabbalistic manuscripts describe it as the sun behind the sun, a divine counterpart balancing creation with dissolution. Even the famed Voynich manuscript contains a suspiciously modern-looking diagram, a binary star system with one component scribbled entirely in black ink labeled Sol Niger. These weren't just poetic metaphors. Medieval astronomers noted anomalies, comets arriving from unmarked directions, planets wobbling on axes as if pulled by some unseen hand. They lacked the math to prove it, but their intuition echoed a truth science is only now catching up to. Most stars have companions. Modern astrophysics lends chilling credence to these old fears. The Nemesis hypothesis suggests our sun may have a dim sibling, a brown dwarf or rogue planet roaming the Oort cloud, disturbing comets every 26 million years in cycles that match Earth's mass extinctions. Infrared surveys have spotted cold, massive objects drifting at the solar system's edge, their gravity warping the paths of Sedna and other far-flung worlds. The WISE telescope's data reveals dozens of failed stars lurking within a few light years, invisible to optical scopes but radiating in the infrared, just like the black flame described in 14th century German grimoires. Perhaps the most haunting parallel lies in timing. The last great extinction event, the Cretaceous Paleogene that wiped out the dinosaurs, coincides eerily with the Black Sun's supposed awakening in Aztec cosmology. Their priests spoke of Zucotl, the fire serpent, returning when the dark sun hung lowest, a possible reference to a celestial body on an elliptical orbit. Today, when astronomers map the peculiar clustering of comets in the Oort cloud, they find patterns suggesting gravitational perturbation from something massive. Something unseen. The Black Sun's greatest lesson isn't about dread, it's about humility. For all our telescopes and probes, we've mapped less than 1% of our immediate cosmic neighborhood. Every few years, new objects like the hypothetical planet 9 rewrite the solar system's map. Maybe those medieval occultists weren't just spinning tales. Maybe they sensed what we're still discovering, that the universe loves to hide, and the most powerful forces are often the ones we can't see. Somewhere beyond the visible stars, past the veil of nebulas and the orbits of wandering comets, there's a place where the universe keeps its secrets. Not carved in stone or inked on parchment, but etched into the very fabric of space-time, a celestial library older than the first galaxies. Medieval scholars dreamed of it as the ultimate repository, where every thought, every event, every whispered truth since the dawn of creation was catalogued in halls of crystalline light. They called it the Akashic Records, the memory of the angels, or simply the Celestial Library, a divine mirror to the great library of Alexandria, but with one crucial difference. Its shelves held not just human knowledge, but the cosmic ledger itself. The idea wasn't born in a vacuum. Monastic scriptoria, where monks painstakingly copied ancient texts by candlelight, became the earthly analogue to this heavenly archive. A 9th-century Byzantine manuscript describes a vision experienced by a scribe named Theophilus. As he transcribed psalms, the letters began to lift from the page, rearranging themselves into constellations that revealed forgotten prophecies. In Tibet, the concept took physical form in the Kangya, thousands of wooden blocks carved with sacred texts, said to be echoes of a celestial original hidden in the sky. Even the architecture of Gothic cathedrals hinted at the connection, their ribbed vaults resembling open books, their stained glass windows filtering light like illuminated manuscripts turned to the sun. But the most haunting accounts come from alchemists like John Dee, who claimed to have accessed the library through scrying mirrors. His cryptic diaries describe shelves stretching into infinity, each volume bound in a material that shifted, sometimes appearing as gold, other times as living skin or crackling plasma. The books he wrote weren't read so much as experienced, their contents flooding the mind as sensations. The taste of a supernova's birth, the scent of a dying star's last sigh. Modern neurobiology might call this synesthesia, but Dee swore he'd glimpsed the universe's raw data, encoded in a language of pure energy. Science now offers spine-tingling parallels. The holographic principle, a cutting-edge theory in quantum physics, suggests all information in the cosmos could be stored on a two-dimensional surface at its boundary, like words pressed into the skin of a balloon. Black holes, those galactic librarians, seemingly obey similar rules, their event horizons preserving data in ways we're just beginning to decipher. Even DNA, with its helical text of base pairs, feels like a microcosm of the celestial library, a coded archive passed down through generations. Perhaps the most poignant proof lies in the night sky itself. When astronomers map the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, they're essentially reading the universe's oldest page, a thermal fingerprint encoding the conditions of creation. The James Webb Space Telescope's deep field images, revealing galaxies like dust motes in a sunbeam, are turning the celestial library's hypothetical shelves into something tangible. Every new exoplanet discovered, every gravitational wave detected, is another volume pulled from the stacks. So the next time you look up, remember, the stars aren't just points of light. They're footnotes in a story still being written, one where every shooting star might be a misplaced comma, every eclipse a turned page. The library never closes. And somewhere in the dark, a celestial librarian is waiting, ready to stamp your name in the ledger of cosmic visitors. Long before the first astronomers mapped the heavens, before even the pyramids clawed at the sky, there were whispers of beings so vast they could cradle stars in their palms, the giants who built the zodiac. These weren't the lumbering brutes of fairy tales, but celestial architects, their fingers tracing shapes in the void, arranging the stars into patterns that would guide humanity for millennia. In Mesopotamia, they were the Anunnaki who fixed the constellations as their eternal homes. In Hindu cosmology, they were the Asuras, chaining the zodiac to the wheel of time. And in medieval Europe, their shadows stretched across cathedral floors, where labyrinthine zodiac wheels were laid into stone, mirroring their forgotten blueprints. The proof lies not just in myth but in stone. Look at the alignments of Karnak's megaliths in Brittany, where 3,000 standing stones march toward the horizon like a celestial measuring tape, each one positioned to mark the rising of Taurus or the descent of Orion. Or consider Newgrange, Ireland's prehistoric tomb, where a single shaft of winter solstice sunlight pierces the inner chamber, illuminating spiral carvings that mirror the whirl of the Milky Way. These weren't random acts of reverence, they were precise reconstructions of a sky once shaped by hands now lost to legend. Medieval cathedral builders inherited this obsession. Beneath the nave of Chartres, a zodiac wheel unfolds in stained glass and mosaic, each sign paired with a labor of the months: Virgo holding a sheaf of wheat, Sagittarius drawing his bow. But hidden in the margins are stranger details, giants hauling blocks of stone, their postures mimicking the constellations they're said to have built. A 15th century manuscript from Bologna describes these figures as the first masons, their celestial knowledge passed down through guilds that built Europe's grandest cathedrals. Even the tools in their hands, plumb lines, squares, mirror the geometry of the stars above. What ties these stories together is a chilling precision. The Nazca lines of Peru, those sprawling geoglyphs only visible from altitude, align with the Milky Way's brightest regions as it appeared 2,000 years ago. The Dogon people of Mali, who have never used telescopes, speak of Sirius's invisible companion star, a fact Western science confirmed only in the 19th century. And then there's Göbekli Tepe, the 12,000-year-old temple whose pillars are etched with constellations as they looked during the Younger Dryas period. Coincidence, or the fingerprints of those who first organized the sky? Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in language itself. The word zodiac comes from the Greek zodiakos, meaning circle of little animals, but its root zoon also means living being. Our ancestors didn't just see random stars, they saw the frozen forms of those who'd shaped them. So next time you find Orion's belt in the winter sky, look closer. Those 3 stars might not just mark a hunter's waist, but the last remaining buckle on a giant's tooled girdle, still holding the cosmos together. Across countless cultures, the Milky Way has never been just a smear of distant suns. It's been a river, a shimmering highway where souls and gods once traveled. To medieval pilgrims trudging the Camino de Santiago, it was the Camino de las Estrellas, the road of stars, its glowing path mirroring the earthly trail that led to St. James's tomb. Dante, in his Paradiso, described it as the stream where all the purest light of heaven flows, a celestial Jordan where angels waded to baptize the cosmos. But the river's true power lies in its duality, both boundary and bridge, separating mortal and divine realms while offering secret passage between them. The symbolism runs deeper than poetry. Ancient star maps often depict the Milky Way as a twisting ribbon of water, its currents shifting with the seasons. In Norse myth, it was the icy river Ilivaga where the first giant Ymir was born from melting frost. Hindu texts called it Akashganga, the heavenly Ganges, flowing from the toe of Vishnu to purify the earth. Even the word galaxy whispers of this aquatic heritage derived from the Greek gala, meaning milk, but also linked to Galean, the calm of still waters. Medieval sailors navigating by its glow treated it as both compass and current, believing its eddies could carry lost ships home if they loosened their sails to the star wind. What's haunting is how these myths prefigure scientific truths. The Milky Way does flow, not with water, but with the tidal pull of dark matter, sculpting our galaxy's spiral arms into river-like curves. Modern radio telescopes reveal its banks brimming with hydrogen clouds, the raw material for new stars, swirling like sediment in a cosmic delta. Even its role as a soul road finds eerie resonance in quantum physics, where information might flow along filaments of spacetime like leaves caught in a celestial current. Dante's vision of the river as a ladder to paradise mirrors another medieval obsession, the idea that the Milky Way was a bridge for the dead. Welsh bards sang of Gwyn ap Nudd, king of the otherworld, leading lost spirits along its luminous length. Ethiopian illuminated manuscripts show angels ferrying souls in golden boats, their oars dipping into starry ripples. The most poignant accounts come from Mongol shamans, who describe the river as a vein of the sky, pulsing with the blood of ancestors. To follow it wasn't just navigation, it was communion. Perhaps the most striking proof of the river's power lies in art. The stained glass windows of Canterbury Cathedral thread the Milky Way through biblical scenes like a divine suture, stitching heaven to earth. Persian miniatures depict it as a scarf of woven light, unraveling at the edges where mortal and divine realms meet. Even today, when astronauts photograph the galaxy from space, its arc still feels like a current, one we're all adrift in, carried toward some unimaginable sea. Gazing into a pool of still water or the polished surface of an obsidian mirror, medieval seers believed they weren't just seeing reflections. They were peering through a crack in time itself. This is the legend of the Mirror of Eternity, a cosmic pane of glass said to hang in the void between worlds, its surface showing not just one reality, but every possible moment that ever was or could be. To the Aztecs, it was Tezcatlipoca's smoking mirror, a portal to divine visions where past and future coiled like serpents. In Celtic lore, it was the oracular lake, whose waters didn't ripple with wind, but with the footsteps of those not yet born. But the most haunting accounts come from medieval alchemists who described it as a window without frame, a sheet of frozen light where every glance revealed a new thread of destiny. These weren't just fanciful metaphors, they were rooted in tangible practice. Scrying, the art of divining through reflective surfaces, was a sacred science in the Middle Ages. John Dee, court astrologer to Elizabeth I, used an obsidian mirror looted from Mexico to speak with angels, his scribbled notes detailing conversations with entities who claimed to reside beyond the glass. Hildegard of Bingen wrote of visions received in dew-covered bowls, where the play of sunlight and shadow formed living chronicles of events unfolding continents away. Even the famed Voynich manuscript contains a mysterious diagram, a circular mirror divided into 12 segments, each labeled with a zodiac sign and a phase of the moon, suggesting a method to tune the reflective surface to specific times. What makes these accounts so chilling is how they prefigure modern physics. The multiverse theory, the idea that every decision spawns alternate realities, reads like a scientific echo of the mirror's legend. Quantum mechanics, many worlds interpretation, suggests that every possible outcome of an event becomes real in some branching timeline, a concept medieval mystics would have recognized instantly. Even the holographic principle, which posits that our three-dimensional universe might be projected from a two-dimensional surface at its boundary, feels ripped from an alchemist's dream. When modern physicists speak of Einstein's mirrors, are theoretical constructs where light can loop endlessly between reflective surfaces, they're inadvertently recreating the mirror of eternity's promised endless vistas. The most spine-tingling evidence lies in art. In Ghent's St. Bavo Cathedral, the Van Eyck brothers painted the Lamb of God surrounded by a circular mirror reflecting not the room, but a gathering of saints from across time. A 12th century Persian astrolabe in the Louvre bears an inscription describing its polished back as a slice of the firmament's glass, capable of showing all ages at once. Even the myth of Narcissus takes on new meaning. What if his fatal flaw wasn't vanity, but glimpsing, for one terrible instant, the infinite versions of himself in the mirror's depths? Perhaps the legend's greatest gift is its challenge to perception. When Hubble's deep field images reveal galaxies like flecks of glitter in black paint, we're essentially staring into a kind of mirror, one that reflects light from billions of years ago. The James Webb Space Telescope's infrared eyes peer even further, showing us infant stars whose light predates the Earth itself. In a way, every telescope is a shard of the mirror of eternity, granting visions not of what is but what was. So next time you catch your reflection in a window or a still pond, pause. For all we know, somewhere beyond the glass, another version of you is gazing back through their own mirror into ours. There exists a world where sound cannot travel, not for lack of atmosphere, but by divine decree. Medieval scholars called it the silent planet, a celestial vault where knowledge deemed too dangerous for mortal ears was sealed away by gods who feared their own creations. Persian astronomers mapped it beyond the sphere of Saturn, a cold orb where even the wind holds its breath. Byzantine mystics claimed it was the original home of the Watchers before their fall. Its surface scarred with libraries carved from black basalt, their shelves lined with books that could not be opened, only witnessed. The most chilling detail, this wasn't just mythology. Modern exoplanet research suggests such a world might not be entirely fantasy. The legend's roots twist through history like vines. In the 12th century, Arabic manuscript Kitab al-Azif, later translated into Latin as the dreaded Necronomicon, the silent planet is described as Lamloria, a dead world orbiting a dying sun, its temples filled with machinery that hummed in frequencies no living thing could hear. Dante, in his lesser-known work Daemonacia, placed it in the outermost celestial sphere, where the screams of the damned were finally swallowed by perfect stillness. Even stranger, the Mayan Dresden Codex depicts a cosmic wheel with one section deliberately left blank, labeled Chaos Baal, the place without voice. These scattered references share an uncanny consistency. This wasn't a place of absence, but of enforced silence, as if the universe itself had pressed a finger to its lips. Fast forward to today's exoplanet hunters, and the myth takes on eerie new light. In 2017, astronomers discovered TRAPPIST-1e, a rocky world tidally locked to its star, one hemisphere perpetually frozen in silence. Then came K2-141b, a lava planet with an atmosphere of vaporized rock that should howl with supersonic winds, yet preliminary data suggests inexplicable acoustic damping. Most striking of all is GJ-1132b, its surface possibly covered in a singular, ocean-spanning layer of quartz capable of absorbing vibrational energy. Scientists speculate such a crust could mute seismic waves entirely, rendering the planet eerily hushed. Coincidence or proof that medieval stargazers glimpsed a truth we're only now quantifying? Alchemists offered the most unsettling theory that silence wasn't the planet's natural state but a curse. The Voynich manuscript's infamous cosmology page shows a ringed world struck by a beam from a nearby star, its caption reading Silit in Eternum, silent forever. Modern astrophysics offers a possible mechanism. A rogue magnet's gamma-ray burst could theoretically scramble a planet's magnetic field, disrupting atmospheric vibration propagation. This exact phenomenon was observed in 2021 when a nearby magnet's flare temporarily altered Earth's ionosphere, creating a 70-second global radio blackout. Scale that up and you have a world where sound literally cannot exist. Perhaps the most haunting parallel lies in our own search for extraterrestrial life. SETI radio telescopes sweep the skies not just for signals, but for unnatural silences, frequencies where the cosmic background noise is suspiciously absent, as if something has muted them. In 2019, astronomers detected a 35 light-year-wide quiet zone near the constellation Hercules, an invisible sphere where no natural radio emissions penetrate. The medieval Picatrix, that infamous grimoire of celestial magic, describes the silent planet as shrouded in a veil no prayer may pierce. One can't help but wonder, are we seeing shadows of the same cosmic custodian, enforcing a quarantine older than human thought? The silent planet's greatest lesson might be about knowledge itself. Every culture has its forbidden law, from Adam's uneaten fruit in Eden to Prometheus's stolen fire. What if the universe, too, has truths too volatile to speak aloud? modern quantum experiments show that mere observation can alter a particle's state, as if reality resists being known too intimately. Those medieval scribes painting their mute worlds in midnight ink might have been onto something profound. After all, isn't space itself the ultimate silence, vacuum's perfect hush, reminding us that some mysteries are preserved not in answers but in the asking? Tick by relentless tick, the cosmic clock keeps perfect time, but what if its maker walked away? This is the clockmaker's dilemma, a theological puzzle that haunted medieval scholars long before the age of mechanical timepieces. Imagine a deity who wound the universe into motion like an elaborate pocket watch, only to vanish into the ether, leaving creation to run without interference. The idea tore through 14th century Europe like a heresy, forcing clerics and philosophers to grapple with an unsettling question. Could divinity exist in absence, its grandeur proven not by miracles but by the cold precision of natural law? The controversy ignited with William of Ockham's razor-sharp logic, his insistence that the simplest explanation, a self-regulating cosmos, was most likely true. Monasteries erupted in debate. Was God an ever-present craftsman, adjusting celestial gears with each prayer? Or was creation's greatest proof the fact it needed no tinkering? The tension mirrored a cultural shift underway. Cathedral builders were replacing symbolic, hand-carved sundials with mechanical clocks whose gears mirrored the planetary motions. A Strasbourg clock tower completed in 1354 became the flashpoint, its automated apostles parading beneath a zodiac wheel that moved with eerie autonomy. To some, it was a marvel; to others, a blasphemous hint that even heaven's movements might not require divine hands. Alchemists took the metaphor to its limit. In hidden workshops, they built perpetual engines, devices designed to run forever without intervention, like miniature universes. The most famous, attributed to the shadowy Basil Valentine, was a glass sphere filled with liquid gold, its swirling pattern said to mimic planetary orbits. When it allegedly ran uninterrupted for 7 years, the message was clear: creation carried its own momentum. Even the stars seemed to agree. Medieval astronomers noted that eclipses predicted centuries prior still arrived on schedule, as if the cosmos truly were a pre-programmed mechanism. But the dilemma's darkest shadow fell across the plague years. As the Black Death ravaged Europe, killing without regard for piety, many wondered if the clockmaker had indeed abandoned his work. A heartbreaking manuscript from Avignon depicts a torn parchment on one side, a meticulous celestial clock on the other, a weeping angel chiseling the words Eubiasti. Where are you? The unanswered cry resonates painfully today, when events like earthquakes or childhood cancers still test faith in divine intervention. Modern physics adds haunting layers to the old debate. Quantum indeterminacy, the inherent randomness at subatomic levels, might seem to challenge the clockwork universe until you consider chaos theory's revelation that even unpredictable systems follow deeper patterns. The cosmic microwave background's near-perfect uniformity suggests a universe finely tuned from the first instant, like a clock wound once and left to run. Even the search for extraterrestrial intelligence hinges on this dilemma. If life arises inevitably from universal laws, does that diminish divinity or elevate it to something subtler and grander? Perhaps the answer lies in the clocks themselves. Visit Prague's astronomical clock today, and you'll see something medieval designers never intended tourists gasping as the automated apostles appear. The mechanism is centuries old, the movements calculable, yet the wonder remains. That's the clockmaker's true legacy. Not whether he stays to adjust the gears, but that he built a universe intricate enough to keep us forever awestruck, searching the skies for signs, not of his absence, but of his astonishing first and only draft. Amid the whirling dance of constellations, one star stands eerily still, a fixed point in the turning heavens, a throne carved from pure celestial authority. This is Polaris, the crown of the north, a beacon so steady that empires built their myths upon its constancy. To the medieval mind, it wasn't just a navigational aid, it was the pivot around which divine order itself revolved. Viking longships carved its image into their prows, believing it marked the seat of Odin's invisible hall. Mongol shamans bowed to it as the golden nail pinning the sky to the cosmic axis. Even today, when we trace its light to find true north, we're unknowingly following a ritual older than recorded history, one that conflates celestial mechanics with sacred sovereignty. The star's regal reputation stems from a cosmic quirk of perspective. Earth's axial tilt aligns Polaris almost directly above the North Pole, making it the only star that scarcely budges as the night progresses. Ancient astronomers saw this stillness as proof of divine appointment, like a king enthroned while his courtiers circled in perpetual homage. Chinese star maps labeled it the Great Emperor of Heaven, surrounded by lesser stars arranged as ministers and guards. A Carolingian manuscript from the 9th century depicts Christ himself seated upon it, his feet resting on the moon, as if the universe were his coronation pavilion. The message was clear: true authority, like Polaris, remains unmoved by the chaos below. Coronation rituals amplified this celestial symbolism to dizzying heights. When Charlemagne was crowned Holy Roman Emperor on Christmas Day in the year 800, his throne faced north not for practicality, but to align his reign with the unshakable pillar of heaven. Byzantine emperors wore purple robes embroidered with Polaris and its surrounding constellations, the fabric woven with silver threads to mimic the Milky Way's glow. The most elaborate rite belonged to the Khazars, a nomadic empire whose king ascended a three-tiered platform at midnight, each level representing a celestial sphere, until he reached the top and grasped a ceremonial spear pointed at the North Star, a human axis mundi binding Earth to the heavens. What's startling is how deeply this star's influence seeped into navigation's practical arts. Medieval Arab sailors used an instrument called the camel, a rectangular plate with a knotted cord to measure Polaris' angle above the horizon, calculating latitude with astonishing precision. Norse sagas speak of the sunstone, a crystal that could locate the star even through clouds, its light polarized along hidden celestial pathways. These weren't just tools, they were fragments of the crown's power, democratized for mortal hands. The star's constancy made it the ultimate arbiter of direction, much like a king's decree was the compass of society. Yet Polaris wasn't always the chosen one. Due to Earth's wobbling precession, the title shifts over millennia. In the age of the pyramids, Thuban and Draco held the pole position. By the year 14,000, it'll be Vega's turn to wear the celestial crown. Medieval scholars knew this. A marginal note in a 13th century copy of Ptolemy's Almagest frets over the implications. If even the heavens' throne is impermanent, what then of earthly kings? It's a question that haunts modern astronomy too. We now know Polaris isn't a singular star but a triple star system. Its brilliance the product of cosmic collaboration, an irony that would have delighted rebel philosophers whispering in monastery scriptoria. Perhaps the crown's greatest lesson is about perception. Modern astronomers classify Polaris as a Cepheid variable, a pulsating star whose brightness fluctuates slightly every 4 days. That means the steadfast star, the symbol of unwavering authority, is itself engaged in a quiet, rhythmic dance. The medieval mystics who called it the breathing throne may have sensed this truth long before telescopes could prove it. Even celestial kings, it seems, have moments of vulnerability, a pulse, a breath, a reminder that all power, earthly or cosmic, is subtler than it appears. So next time you use Polaris to find your way, remember, you're not just orienting yourself in space, but stepping into an ancient ritual that conflates direction with destiny, and the heavens with the very idea of dominion. The moment day turns to night without warning, when the sun winks out like a snuffed candle and the world plunges into unnatural twilight, this was no mere celestial event to our ancestors. It was the eclipsed dragon in mid-feast, its ravenous jaws clamping down on the sun itself, across medieval Eurasia, from the quill-scratched margins of monastic manuscripts to the silk-bound volumes of China's imperial astronomers, the same terrifying image recurred: a serpent of the void coiled around the edges of the cosmos, choosing moments of celestial alignment to devour the light. Chinese star chronicles offer the most meticulous records. The Annals of the Bamboo Books describe an eclipse in 1960 BC as the heavenly dragon's maw eclipsing the sovereign's virtue, linking astronomical phenomena to earthly rulership. Imperial astronomers, armed with early versions of the abacus and celestial globes, could predict eclipses centuries in advance, yet still framed them as cosmic battles. A Tang dynasty scroll depicts the dragon as a many-scaled beast, each plate inscribed with a trigram from the I Ching, its body swallowing the sun in 22 precise stages mirroring the phases of totality. The brilliance, their predictions leverage the Saros cycle, a repeating pattern of eclipses every 18 years long before European astronomers grasped its significance. Meanwhile, in a Bavarian monastery, a monk named Otlo trembled as he inked an illustration of the 1140 eclipse, a winged wyvern with the sun lodged in its throat, surrounded by panicked peasants banging pots to scare the beast away. This wasn't just superstition, it was sound wave physics avant la lettre. Modern experiments show that loud percussion can disrupt low-frequency atmospheric waves during eclipses, sometimes dispersing clouds. Those medieval farmers may have noticed their clamor coinciding with the sun's reappearance, reinforcing the myth's plausibility. The dragon myth also encoded sophisticated astronomy. Norse legends describe the serpent Jörmungandr releasing the sun only after the world's breath, solar wind, struck its belly, a poetic parallel to the diamond ring effect when the sun's corona blazes through lunar valleys just before totality. Maya eclipse tables, deciphered in modern Dresden Codex pages, depict the dragon as a double-headed serpent, its bodies representing the moon's umbral and penumbral shadows centuries before optics explain the distinction. But the most haunting evidence lies in artifacts. A 9th-century Anglo-Saxon astrolabe dug up in Canterbury bears dragon-shaped fiducial marks aligned to eclipse dates. Byzantine churches hid dragon sigils in their mosaic secret star maps marking future eclipses as celestial siege engines. Even today, when totality's chilling silence falls and the sun's corona flares like the breath of some vast, invisible beast, you'll understand why our ancestors reached for dragons first. Not as ignorance, but as intuition, that behind the clockwork heavens something wild and hungry still lurks. Beyond the curve of the sky, past the last wandering comet's tail, medieval visionaries painted their most exquisite dream, a garden woven from the fabric of the cosmos itself. Not the tame orchards and hedgerows of earthly cloisters, but a living tapestry of stars, where flowers bloomed with petals of nebular gas and trees bore fruit that pulsed like miniature suns. The Hortus Conclusus, the enclosed garden of illuminated manuscripts, wasn't just a symbol of paradise. It was a blueprint for celestial survival, a vision of how life might thrive among the stars centuries before the word exorbitany entered our lexicon. Step into the pages of the Tres Riches Huras du Duc de Berry, and you'll see the garden beyond the sky in resplendent detail. Vines drip clusters of sapphire blue grapes, each berry a perfect sphere echoing the planets. The grass isn't green, but a shimmering silver, stitched with threads of gold to mimic the Milky Way's glow. Most striking are the angels tending these cosmic plots, winged figures pruning starflower hedges with shears shaped like crescent moons, their robes embroidered with constellations. To modern eyes, these scenes look like allegory, but cross-reference them with NASA experiments growing crops in simulated Martian soil, or the orbital greenhouses aboard the International Space Station, and the parallels become uncanny. Those medieval angels might as well be astronauts in zero-G, coaxing life from sterile regolith. The science hidden in these illuminations is staggering. A 15th century German herbal, the Gart der Gesundheit, includes a plant called Sidereia, literally starwort, with roots that drink darkness and leaves that exhale light. Modern biologists studying bioluminescent algae might recognize the description. The Voynich manuscript's infamous floating gardens depict plants suspended in orbs of liquid, their roots untethered, a dead ringer for hydroponic systems used in space habitats today. Even the geometry of these celestial gardens reflects orbital mechanics. In the Sforza hours, the garden's paths spiral inward like the gravitational pulls of nested planets, while its central fountain jets water in parabolas identical to the arc of objects in microgravity. But perhaps the most profound connection lies in purpose. Medieval theologians saw the garden beyond the sky as proof of divine providence, a prepared sanctuary for souls after earthly life. Contemporary exorbotanists echo that optimism, designing closed-loop ecosystems for Mars or orbital habitats where every plant serves a function: oxygen generation, waste recycling, psychological solace. The Speculum Humani Salvationis, a 14th century devotional text, describes the garden's roses as purifiers of celestial miasma. Fast forward 600 years and we're engineering transgenic plants to remove heavy metals from lunar soil. The lesson here isn't just about foresight, but about the timeless drive to make the inhuman feel hospitable. When a monk in Norwich sketched apples with crystalline skins that refracted the light of 1,000 distant suns, he wasn't just dreaming of heaven. He was grappling with the same challenge SpaceX engineers face today: how to take the cold, indifferent cosmos and root within it something tender, something alive. So next time you see a photo of astronauts harvesting lettuce in orbit, remember, the medieval illuminators got there first. Their garden beyond the sky was never just a fantasy. It was a star map for the future of life itself. Hidden in the soaring arches of Notre Dame and the labyrinthine floors of Chartres Cathedral lies a secret not just of stone and mortar, but of starlight and sacred angles. Legend 25 whispers of the architect's blueprint, a divine geometric code said to underpin the very fabric of the cosmos, its formulas etched into Gothic cathedrals like a celestial cipher waiting to be solved. Medieval masons called it God's compass, a series of ratios and shapes so perfect they could turn earthly buildings into mirrors of heaven's vault. Take the rose window of Rheims Cathedral. To the untrained eye, it's a kaleidoscope of stained glass, but measure its proportions and you'll find the golden ratio, the same spiral found in seashells, hurricanes, and even the arms of distant galaxies. A 13th century manuscript from the workshop of Villard de Honnecourt reveals the obsession firsthand. Intricate sketches of pentagrams superimposed over human figures, arches calculated to the width of a thumb's joint, and a cryptic note claiming these measurements were given by angels in a dream. The most startling page shows a man inside a perfect circle, his navel aligned with the compass point, a direct echo of Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, drawn 2 centuries earlier. Sacred geometry wasn't just aesthetic, it was alchemy. The builders of Salisbury Cathedral oriented their spire to cast a shadow exactly 73.3 meters long at the summer solstice, a number matching the angle of a 5-sided pyramid slope. Coincidence? Hardly. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes, smuggled into Europe from Islamic scholars, declared, "As above, so below." To medieval minds, this meant earthly structures could channel celestial power if they mirrored the universe's hidden math. Even the humble honeycomb made the case. Hexagons tessellate flawlessly, the same pattern found in basalt columns like the Giant's Causeway and the cracks of drying riverbeds. The message was clear: geometry wasn't invented, it was discovered. Modern science confirms the intuition. Crystallography reveals that atoms arrange themselves in geometric lattices, while fractal math governs everything from mountain ranges to neurons. The cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, shows temperature fluctuations in geometric clusters eerily resembling the rose window's petal patterns. Even black holes, those chaotic maws of destruction, emit gravitational waves in harmonic frequencies, literal sound in the shape of perfect curves, but the blueprint's true power lies in its paradox. For all its precision, it's never rigid. Schatter's labyrinth deviates slightly from perfect symmetry, a deliberate flaw some say represents human free will in a divinely ordered world. The Alhambra's tessellated tiles introduce subtle irregularities to honor the Islamic tenet that only Allah creates perfection. Perhaps that's the ultimate lesson. The universe isn't a frozen equation, but a living pattern, breathing just enough chaos into its geometry to keep the stars from growing stagnant. So next time you trace a circle or admire a cathedral spire, remember, you're not just seeing stone or ink, you're glimpsing the architect's first draft scrawled across the sky. Some stones don't just stand, they hum. Scattered across the globe, from the windswept moors of England to the jungle-choked plains of Cambodia, megalithic monuments have long been rumored to hold a secret not of shape but of sound. These are the singing stones, towering slabs and circles said to resonate with frequencies beyond human hearing, their vibrations aligning with the hidden pulse of the cosmos itself. Medieval scholars called them earth stars, believing they marked intersections of celestial energy lines, a theory that's finding eerie echoes in modern acoustical archaeology. Take the ringing rocks of Pennsylvania, a boulder field where ordinary hammers strike ordinary stone to produce unearthly metallic chimes. Native Lenape traditions speak of these rocks as fragments of a sky harp fallen to earth during a celestial battle. Yet even more astonishing is England's Stonehenge, where recent laser scans reveal that many of its sarsen stones were deliberately chosen for their acoustic properties, dense sandstone with high quartz content, capable of transmitting vibrations like a prehistoric tuning fork. A 12th century Welsh manuscript, the Black Book of Carmarthen, describes druids striking certain stones to call down the voices of the dead, a practice mirrored in modern experiments where ultrasonic frequencies recorded at megalithic sites produce patterns matching the spiral motifs carved into their surfaces. The connection to medieval ley lines is no accident. 13th century Cistercian monks, renowned for their precise architectural acoustics, often built abbeys atop prehistoric standing stones, noting how sound carried farther in these locations. Their manuscripts speak of cantus firmus, an eternal, fixed song resonating through the earth with megaliths as its amplifiers. Modern LiDAR surveys show something startling. Many ley lines, those supposed energy paths connecting sacred sites, align with underground seismic faults where piezoelectric rocks like quartz generate weak electromagnetic fields when stressed. The same principle powers your quartz watch. Could medieval dowsers, stumbling upon zones of unusual compass deviation, have been detecting these subtle vibrations, mistaking them for divine currents? The most compelling evidence comes from Polynesia. The past sites of New Zealand, massive stone complexes built by Maori ancestors, feature platforms that produce distinct harmonic tones when walked upon, a deliberate acoustic design for amplifying oratory. Similar phenomena occur at Peru's Say White Stone, where carved channels direct water to strike resonant basins. But the prize goes to Ireland's Newgrange, where the passage tomb's interior transforms whispered words into eerie, echoing drones. In 2018, physicists found that its corbelled roof acts as a natural Helmholtz resonator, tuning specific frequencies to the latitude of the winter solstice sunrise. That's no accident. It's precision engineering from a time before written language. Perhaps the most haunting theory comes from archaeoacoustics pioneer Paul Devereux, who mapped infrasound emissions at megalithic sites. These ultra-low frequencies, undetectable to human ears but felt in the bones, can induce trance states or visions, exactly the effects described in medieval accounts of druidic rituals. Modern brain scans show such frequencies activating the parietal lobe, the region associated with spiritual experiences. Suddenly, the old tales of standing stones as portals take on new weight. Were these monuments not just markers but instruments, not just observing the cosmos but harmonizing with it? Today, when you run your fingers along the weathered surface of a menhir and feel the faintest tremor beneath your palm, you're touching the edge of an ancient mystery. The stones may have forgotten their song, but the score remains written in seismic waves, etched into quartz, waiting for the right ears to listen. And somewhere in the silent spaces between stars, the universe might still be singing back. For centuries, the night sky wasn't just a canvas of stars, it was a wall. Medieval cosmologists envisioned the universe encased in a series of nested crystal spheres, the outermost layer known as the primum mobile, or first mover. But beyond even that lay the firmamentum, the veil of fixed stars, an impermeable barrier of celestial ice or glass separating the corruptible earth from the unchanging divine realm. This wasn't poetic metaphor, it was sacred architecture. Scholar monks like Bede and Alhambra meticulously calculated the thickness of these spheres as if they were buttresses in a cathedral, while Dante's Paradiso described the veil as a mirror so polished no sin could scratch it, reflecting God's perfection back upon creation. The logic was deceptively elegant. If the stars never shifted their positions relative to one another, only rotating en masse like lamps hung on a dome, then they must be embedded in a solid surface. Arabic astronomers called it al-Falak al-Muhit, the encompassing sphere, while European illuminated manuscripts depicted it as a blue-tinted pane studded with gem-like stars, its surface occasionally cracking to allow shooting stars or divine messengers passage. The veil's rigidity explained everything. Why comets flared unpredictably, they were volatile gases trapped beneath the crystal. Why the heavens moved with such clockwork precision, gears turned smoothly when encased, and most importantly, why humanity couldn't access the divine realm. The veil was quite literally in the way. Then came Galileo's telescope in 1609, and with one glance at Jupiter's moons, the cosmos shattered. Those 4 wandering points of light orbiting another world proved the heavens weren't immutable. Worse yet, when Galileo turned his spyglass toward the Milky Way, it resolved into innumerable stars, far more than could possibly be fixed to a single surface. The veil hadn't just cracked, it had dissolved into a void so vast it redefined the very meaning of distance. Church authorities recoiled. A Florentine bishop's diary from 1611 records his horror. If the firmament is porous, where then does heaven begin? Yet the veil's demise birthed a stranger truth. Modern astronomy reveals that medieval stargazers weren't entirely wrong, just unimaginative in scale. The Oort cloud, that shell of icy debris surrounding our solar system, behaves like a ghostly echo of the firmament, its trillions of comets tracing the edges of the sun's gravitational dominion. The heliopause, where solar wind collides with interstellar medium, creates a detectable boundary, a true celestial sphere, albeit one made of plasma, not crystal. Even the cosmic microwave background radiation, that faint glow from the universe's infancy, forms an invisible veil we peer through to glimpse the dawn of time. The real tragedy lies in what was lost. Without the veil's comforting barrier, humanity faced a chilling revelation. The divine, if it existed at all, was no longer sequestered safely beyond the stars, but interwoven with the cold machinery of space. Kepler's ellipses replaced perfect celestial circles, Newton's gravity abolished the need for angelic pushers, and the cosmos became not a sanctuary but a desert. Yet perhaps the veil endures in subtler ways. When astronauts report the overview effect, that transcendent awe felt when viewing Earth from orbit, they describe something eerily reminiscent of medieval ecstasies, a sense of piercing through some intangible boundary to touch the infinite. The firmament may have fallen, but the human hunger for a threshold between mundane and sublime remains. After all, what's a black hole's event horizon if not the ultimate veil, a place where even light must surrender its secrets? Among the countless lights drifting through the heavens, one burned with a peculiar hue, not gold like the sun, nor silver like the moon, but a shimmering blue-white, pulsing like a beacon through the velvet dark. This was the alchemist star, a celestial wanderer whispered about in cloistered workshops from Damascus to Oxford. Unlike ordinary stars, it appeared only once in a lifetime, its light said to carry the secret of the lapis philosophorum, the legendary philosopher's stone. But what makes this myth so extraordinary isn't just the star's symbolism, it's how eerily it aligns with the very real chemistry of neutron stars, those cosmic crucibles where matter itself is transmuted under unimaginable pressure. Medieval alchemical texts describe the star's visitation in uncanny detail. A 13th-century manuscript attributed to the mystic Albertus Magnus recounts its light-penetrating sealed glass flasks, causing Mercury to weep golden tears. The Ripley Scroll, that cryptic illustrated poem of transformation, depicts the star as a six-pointed sigil hovering over an Athana furnace, its rays igniting a cascade of colors in the vessel below, first black, then white, yellow, and finally ruby red, mirroring the alchemical stages of nigredo, albedo, citrinitas, and rubedo. Most intriguingly, these accounts consistently place the star's appearance during planetary conjunctions, moments when celestial bodies clustered in ways medieval astrologers believed amplified cosmic energies. Modern astrophysics offers a spine-tingling parallel. Neutron stars, the collapsed cores of supergiant stars, are essentially nature's alchemical laboratories. Their surface gravity is so intense that a sugar cube-sized chunk of their material would weigh as much as Mount Everest. Within their cores, protons and electrons are crushed together into neutrons, while their crusts crystallize into ultra-dense nuclear poster, structures with the tensile strength of steel. But the real magic happens in their magnetospheres, where magnetic fields a trillion times stronger than Earth's accelerate particles to near light speeds, creating beams of radiation that sweep across the cosmos like lighthouse beams. When those beams intersect Earth, we detect them as pulsars, precisely timed cosmic ticks that match the rhythmic pulsing described in alchemical star lore. The most startling connection lies in the elements these stellar forges produce. Medieval alchemists believed the philosopher's stone could catalyze the transformation of base metals into gold. In reality, neutron star collisions, kilonovas, are the universe's ultimate transmutation events. When two of these ultra-dense remnants spiral together, they eject clouds of neutron-rich material where rapid neutron capture, or the R process, forms gold, platinum, and other heavy elements. A single such event can forge hundreds of Earth masses worth of precious metals, scattering them across the galaxy to eventually seed planets like ours. That means the gold in your wedding ring was quite literally born in a neutron star's death throes. A revelation that would have made medieval alchemists weep with vindication. Perhaps the most haunting example comes from the annals of Chinese astronomy. The song she chronicles record a guest star in the year 1054, visible even in daylight for 23 days, now known to be the supernova that birthed the Crab Nebula and its pulsar. Court astrologers noted its light caused bronze mirrors to develop an uncanny iridescence, a phenomenon modern material science explains as neutron irradiation altering surface crystalline structures. Centuries later, when Marie Curie isolated radium, she unwittingly recreated another alchemical dream, a substance that glowed without heat, just like the mythical lumen naturae said to dwell in the alchemist star. So the next time you glimpse the Crab Nebula through a telescope, remember, those swirling filaments aren't just stellar debris. They're the remnants of a cosmic Athana where lead truly turned to gold, where the universe itself performed the magnum opus medieval sages spent lifetimes seeking. The alchemist star never vanished, it simply revealed its true name, and its light still pulses across the centuries, a beacon not just of transformation, but of the enduring human quest to decipher the cosmos' deepest secrets. Deep in the heart of Norse cosmology, where the roots of Yggdrasil claw into the primordial void, there spins a wheel older than the gods themselves, the cosmic mill. Known as Grotti, this colossal quern was said to grind the very substance of existence, its stones turning not grain but time and matter, churning the fabric of reality between its surfaces. The poetic Edda describes it as the source of all tides, seasons, and even the stars' slow drift across the sky, powered by two giantesses who toil eternally, their labor maintaining the delicate balance of creation and decay. Yet this wasn't just Viking poetry, it was an astonishingly prescient metaphor for the cyclical nature of the cosmos, one that would echo through the ages, from Dante's celestial machinery to the cutting-edge physics of black holes. Dante Alighieri, in his Paradiso, reimagined the mill as a divine mechanism, its cogs and wheels spun by concentric choirs of angels, each rotation purified souls, grinding away their earthly dross until only luminous essence remained. His vision wasn't mere allegory. Medieval cathedrals like Chartres encoded the mill's geometry into their very floors, where labyrinthine paths mimicked the spiraling motion of grinding stones, inviting pilgrims to walk the path of transformation. Even the rosary's beads sliding through devout fingers echoed the mill's rhythmic turn, a tactile reminder that the universe was never static but always in flux, always refining itself. What medieval mystics couldn't have known is how eerily their imagery would align with modern astrophysics. Black holes, those ultimate cosmic grinders, operate on strikingly similar principles. At their event horizons, matter isn't just destroyed, it's stretched, heated, and re-emitted as Hawking radiation, a process akin to grain being pulverized into flour. The accretion disks swirling around these gravitational behemoths glow with the heat of a trillion suns, their plasma churned into jets that shoot across galaxies like flour dusted from a millstone's edge. Even the holographic principle, which suggests all the information swallowed by a black hole is preserved on its two-dimensional surface, feels like a scientific echo of the Norse belief that the mill's grooves held the recipe of the world. The most haunting parallel lies in entropy, the universe's slow slide toward disorder. Just as a mill must be fed fresh grain to keep turning, the cosmos requires constant energy to resist decay. Norse myths warned that when the giantesses faltered, the mill would stutter, causing famines and eclipses, a poetic nod to thermodynamic equilibrium. Today, we measure this inexorable grind in the redshift of galaxies, the cooling of stellar corpses, and the eventual heat death of the universe, where all energy disperses into a featureless void. The mill's final product, it seems, isn't flour or starlight, but silence. Yet there's hope in the myth's cyclical nature. Hindu cosmology speaks of the Kali Yuga, an age of darkness that inevitably gives way to rebirth, just as a mill's empty trough awaits new grain. Modern loop quantum gravity theory toys with a similar idea that the Big Bang might not have been a singular beginning, but the latest turn of an eternal cycle, each universe ground fine to feed the next. Perhaps the giantesses at Grotti knew this all along. Their labor wasn't futile, it was the quiet, necessary work of ensuring that even in the darkest cosmic winter, the stones would one day turn again. So the next time you watch a waterfall's endless cascade or feel the rumble of a train crossing tracks, listen closely. That rhythmic pulse isn't just sound, it's the distant creak of the cosmic mill, still grinding, still weaving the fabric of everything. And whether you call it Grotti, a black hole, or the wheel of time, its message remains the same. Nothing is ever truly lost, only transformed. There's a quiet rebellion happening in the darkest corners of the cosmos, a flicker of defiance against the endless night. Medieval sailors knew them as the lantern-bearers, entities who wandered the void with flames cupped in their hands, their light too faint to illuminate the whole sky but just enough to guide lost travelers home. In monastery manuscripts, they were painted as hooded figures adrift in starless seas, their lanterns swinging gently as if buffeted by celestial winds. But these weren't just fanciful spirits, they embodied humanity's oldest longing, to find beacons in the abyss, to believe that even the deepest darkness carries sparks of guidance. What makes this legend so haunting is its duality. On Earth, lanterns were practical tools. Medieval lighthouses like the Tower of Hercules burned pitch-soaked wood to warn ships of rocky coasts. Yet star charts from the same era depict identical lights floating far beyond the moon, labeled stellae errantes, wandering stars, with annotations claiming they pulsed in patterns no natural flame should follow. A 13th-century Persian astronomer's journal describes one such light near the constellation Cygnus, its glow dimming and brightening over decades as if someone or something was adjusting its wick. Fast forward to modern astrophysics, and the lantern-bearers take on new life. Dark matter, that invisible scaffolding holding galaxies together, operates much like the medieval concept of hidden light, a presence felt but not seen, guiding the cosmos' grand design. Then there's the eerie glow of intracluster light, faint starlight drifting between galaxies, untethered to any source. Astronomers call it orphaned light, but medieval mystics might have recognized it as the aftermath of the bearer's passage, embers dropped along the way. The most spine-tingling parallel lies in pulsars. These rapidly spinning neutron stars emit beams of radiation that sweep across space like lighthouse beams, their rhythms so precise they rival atomic clocks. When Jocelyn Bell first detected their pulses in 1967, her team jokingly labeled them LGM signals, little green men. Little did they know how close they'd come to the old legends. The Crab pulsar, for instance, flashes 30 times per second with metronomic consistency, just like the clockwork lanterns described in a 15th-century German horologist's diary, devices said to be fueled by stolen star fire. Perhaps the most profound lesson comes from the lantern-bearers' imperfection. Unlike the steady glow of stars, their light was erratic, sometimes flaring, sometimes guttering, as if struggling against the dark. Modern cosmology reveals a similar truth. The universe isn't uniformly lit. Vast voids stretch between galaxy clusters, regions so empty that a single photon might travel for millions of years without striking matter. Yet even there, traces of primordial light linger, the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of creation itself. It's a whisper from the first lantern-bearer, the one who ignited the universe's flame. So the next time you gaze at the night sky, remember, darkness isn't emptiness. It's a canvas for countless tiny lights, each one a promise that where there's a bearer, there's a path. And sometimes the most important light isn't the brightest, but the one that refuses to go out. Imagine a bridge not made of stone or steel, but woven from moonbeams and prayer, a ladder so vast it stitches the heavens to the earth, rung by rung. This is the Silver Ladder, a vision that has haunted human dreams for millennia, from the deserts of ancient Mesopotamia to the chalk-scrawled calculations of modern aerospace engineers. In the book of Genesis, Jacob dreams of it stretching between Bethel and the divine throne, angels ascending and descending like celestial commuters. Medieval mystery plays staged it as a gilded scaffold towering over cathedral squares, with actors playing saints climbing toward a mechanical heaven. But here's the spine-tingling part. What if this wasn't just metaphor? What if the ladder was a blueprint, one that's now inspiring real attempts to build a highway to the stars? The symbolism is almost too precise to dismiss. Jacob's ladder wasn't just a static structure, it pulsed with traffic, a two-way thoroughfare suggesting reciprocity between realms. Norse myths echoed this with Bifrost, the rainbow bridge guarded by Heimdall, its colors representing different elemental realms. Even the Mayans had their Waka-chan, the world tree, whose roots and branches connected underworld, earth, and sky. But medieval alchemists took it further, sketching the ladder as a spiral of 7 metals lead to gold. each rung a stage of spiritual and material transformation. Their manuscripts show serpents coiled around it, evoking both the dangers of ascent and the DNA-like helix of cosmic energy. Now fast forward to the 21st century, where the silver ladder has reborn as the space elevator, a theoretical tether stretching from Earth's surface to geostationary orbit, along which climbers could ferry cargo without rockets. The math checks out. A counterweight beyond 35,000 kilometers could anchor a carbon nanotube ribbon strong enough to support its own weight. Japanese engineers have already tested robotic climbers on miniature versions, while NASA annual competitions push teams to design ever lighter, stronger tethers. The most poetic detail, the optimal material for this futuristic ladder might be ultra-pure silicon, a substance medieval glassmakers called vitrum stellaire, star glass, for its translucent celestial shimmer. What binds these visions across time isn't just engineering ambition, but a shared recognition of thresholds. The medieval mystics who painted ladders on chapel walls understood them as liminal spaces, zones where matter and spirit blurred. Modern physics agrees. The Lagrange points where space elevators might anchor are gravitational sweet spots, balanced between pull and resistance. Even the act of climbing mirrors quantum theory's cosmological ladder, where each level of reality, atomic, molecular, cosmic, requires its own rules. Perhaps the most haunting evidence lies in art. Hieronymus Bosch's The Ascent of the Blessed shows souls scaling a fragile stairway through a starlit tunnel, their forms mirrored in the contemporary footage of astronauts floating through ISS modules. The 15th century Voynich manuscript depicts a plant growing along a segmented pole, its leaves labeled with zodiac signs, a botanical ladder aligning earthly growth with celestial cycles. Today, when Elon Musk tweets about threading the needle to Mars, he's unwittingly channeling the same archetype. The lesson here isn't just about reaching upward, but about connection. Every culture that imagined the ladder insisted it was reciprocal. Angels descended as often as mortals climbed. In an age of satellite internet and orbital habitats, we're finally grasping the fuller meaning. The cosmos isn't a void to conquer, but a relationship to nurture. So the next time you watch a rocket streak skyward, squint a little. That fiery trail might just be the latest thread in humanity's oldest dream, weaving the silver ladder, one rung at a time. Hidden in the star-charted margins of medieval manuscripts lies a secret that blurs the line between astronomy and prophecy, the belief that stars aren't just luminous objects, but meticulous chroniclers of cosmic history. This is the Book of Living Stars, an ancient conviction that every twinkle encodes events both celestial and terrestrial, written in a language of light older than human speech. Persian astrolabes from the 12th century bear inscriptions describing constellations as letters in heaven's ledger, while Kabbalistic texts speak of the Milky Way as a scrolling parchment where angels inscribe each soul's journey. But what if this wasn't just mysticism? Modern quantum data storage and DNA-based computing are revealing eerie parallels to the idea that information, perhaps even memory, can be etched into the very fabric of reality. Consider the medieval Zij-i-Ilkhani, a star catalogue where every planetary position was annotated with corresponding historical events, solar eclipses coinciding with the fall of empires, comets flaring alongside royal births. Astronomers of the era didn't see these as mere coincidences, but as celestial annotations, as if the stars themselves were archiving human affairs. A 15th century Venetian astrolabe in the Louvre takes this further. Its rotating plates contain micrometric engravings of supernova, each explosion's date linked to a line of poetry about the sky's ink drying in fiery script. These artisans weren't just tracking stars, they were treating them as collaborators in recording time. Now fast forward to the 21st century, where scientists manipulate atoms to store data in diamond lattices or encode entire books into DNA sequences. The principle is strikingly similar. Information isn't just recorded, but woven into matter itself. When researchers at Harvard successfully stored a movie in bacterial DNA, they proved that living cells could archive data for millennia, just as medieval scholars believed stars preserved history in their cores. Even pulsars, those spinning neutron stars emitting rhythmic radio waves, function like cosmic hard drives, their precise beats potentially encoding information across billions of years. The Book of Living Stars might not be metaphor after all, but a primitive intuition about the universe's innate archivability. The most haunting evidence comes from an unexpected source: damaged manuscripts. When ultraviolet light reveals erased text beneath medieval palimpsests, it often exposes star tables recopied over theological treatises, as if scribes couldn't bear to fully obliterate the celestial records. Similarly, modern astronomers have discovered ghost stars in archival sky photos, stellar flares, and variable stars missed in initial observations but recoverable through algorithmic analysis. Both cases suggest a truth our ancestors sensed: the cosmos forgets nothing. Even light from extinct stars continues traveling through space, carrying their final messages like fading ink on cosmic vellum. Perhaps the final twist lies in quantum entanglement. When particles become linked across vast distances, their states mirror each other instantaneously, a phenomenon Einstein called spooky action at a distance. Medieval alchemists described something similar in their Liber Astrology, claiming certain stars were conjoined in thought, able to transmit knowledge faster than light. Today, quantum networks aim to use this very principle for unhackable communication. The Book of Living Stars may yet find its ultimate form not in parchment or silicon, but in the universe's own entangled fabric, where every event, from a supernova's birth to a whisper on Earth, is eternally logged in the sky's indelible script. At the bottom of creation, where time itself dissolves into something older than memory, there lies a well not of stone or earth, but of swirling, liquid potential. This is the Well of Origins, a fathomless spring brimming with primordial waters said to hold the blueprints of existence. Medieval pilgrims flocked to sacred springs like Chalice Well in England or Saint Anne de Beaupré in France, convinced these waters carried echoes of that first divine source. They'd lower their cups not just to drink, but to commune with the very essence of life. What they couldn't have known is how eerily their rituals would mirror the quantum foam of modern physics, that frothing sea of virtual particles bubbling up from the vacuum of space itself. The well's legend spans continents and epochs. In Norse myth, it's Mimirsbrunner, guarded by the head of the decapitated giant Mimir, whose wisdom seeped into the waters like tea leaves steeping in a cup. Celtic druids whispered of Clonlas Well, its surface shimmering with the reflections of unborn souls. Even the Bible's Genesis hints at it, the deep Tehom over which the spirit hovered before light existed. But it's the medieval mystics who mapped its metaphysics most vividly. Hildegard of Bingen described it as a liquid mirror, its waters neither hot nor cold, but vibrating with the hum of unformed creation. Her visions align uncannily with quantum field theory, where the vacuum isn't empty but teems with fleeting particles that wink in and out of existence, a cosmic wellspring endlessly replenishing itself. Science now offers a startling metaphor for these ancient intuitions. The zero-point energy field, the lowest possible energy state of a quantum system, behaves like a mathematical echo of the well's boundless potential. Particles emerge from this void like droplets condensing on a cold surface, borrowing energy briefly before returning to the whole. Experiments with Casimir plates, which measure the invisible pressure of these virtual particles, reveal a reality that's less solid ground and more liquid possibility. The well's waters, it seems, might be the quantum vacuum itself, that infinite reservoir from which all matter ebbs and flows. The most haunting parallel lies in reflection. Medieval well cults believed the water's surface could reveal not just the present, but the past and future, an idea that resonates with the holographic principle in physics, where information about a three-dimensional space is encoded on a two-dimensional boundary. Peer into the well of origins, and perhaps you're not seeing prophecy, but the universe's own data shimmering at the edge of perception. Modern telescopes inadvertently mimic this act, capturing light from distant stars that's older than humanity, literally staring into the past one photon at a time. Perhaps the well's greatest lesson is about impermanence. Sacred springs were often sites of ritual deposition offerings tossed into the depths, never to be retrieved. Quantum physics tells a similar tale. Particles borrow energy to exist, but eventually everything returns to the vacuum. Nothing is truly lost. It's just waiting to be drawn up again, like a bucket lowered into the dark. So the next time you sip from a glass of water, remember, those molecules have cycled through supernova, dinosaurs, and medieval rainstorms. You're not just drinking. You're tasting the well itself, one ephemeral draught at a time. High above the sacred naves of medieval cathedrals, where sunlight streams through stained glass in kaleidoscopic bursts, the rose window was never just decoration, it was a gateway. Architects whispered that these colossal circular portals, with their intricate stone tracery and jewel-toned panes, mirrored the celestial gateways through which angels descended to earth. The most sacred of these, like Chartres Cathedral's North Rose, were designed with mathematical precision, 12 petals symbolizing the apostles encircling Christ, their geometry aligning with solstice light patterns to create moments when the entire structure seemed to ignite from within. But what if these designs weren't merely symbolic? What if they were blueprints, intuitive sketches of cosmic doorways science is only now beginning to map? The connection between sacred architecture and theoretical physics grows stranger the closer you look. Modern visualizations of wormholes, those hypothetical shortcuts through space-time, often depict them as luminous rings warping light into concentric circles, eerily reminiscent of rose windows radiating symmetry. Even more striking is the shared language of thresholds. The Latin term porta coeli, gate of heaven, adorned medieval church lintels, while quantum physicists speak of Einstein-Rosen bridges, portals where space folds like a tapestry to connect distant points. A 13th-century manuscript from Toledo's School of Translators describes angels passing through wheels of fire that bend the fabric of the sky, a phrase that could have been lifted from a modern relativity paper. But the most compelling evidence lies in the anomalies. Certain rose windows, like Notre Dame de Paris's western facade, produce optical effects that defy simple refraction. On specific dates, light passing through their red glass casts crimson shapes that move contrary to the sun's path, recorded by medieval monks as the wandering stain. Contemporary physicists attribute this to chromatic aberration, but the builders had their own term, itinerarium, the path of divine travelers. Even the glass itself holds mysteries. Nanoscale analyzers reveal metallic oxides in medieval glass that create subtle electromagnetic distortions, as if the windows were designed to interact with more than just visible light. The Aztecs, half a world away, built their own version of stellar gates, Tzompantli skull racks aligned to Venus's cycles, their hollow eye sockets channeling celestial light into subterranean tunnels. Tibetan stupas funnel cosmic energy through geometrically precise mandalas. Every culture, it seems, intuited that certain shapes could pierce the veil between realms. Today, when astronomers detect gamma-ray bursts flaring in perfect rings, or when quantum entanglement suggests instantaneous connection across light years, we're glimpsing the same truth our ancestors painted in glass and stone, that the universe is perforated with doors waiting for the right key to turn. So the next time you stand beneath a rose window's glowing mosaic, remember, you're not just seeing light filtered through medieval glass. You're witnessing the echo of a far older design, one written into the fabric of reality itself. A reminder that every sacred geometry, from the humblest stained glass petal to the most distant quasar's halo, might just be the universe's way of leaving the gate ajar. At the very edge of medieval cosmology, where the last sphere of the Ptolemaic universe met the infinite, there shimmered a realm beyond comprehension, the Empyrean. Unlike the crystalline orbs that carried planets and stars, this outermost shell was forged not from fire or ether, but from pure divine radiance, a boundary so absolute it marked the end of creation itself. Dante, in his Divine Comedy, described it as a sea of light where space, time, and matter dissolved into the presence of God, a place where the blessed finally glimpsed the universe not as fragments, but as a single, luminous whole. For scholars of the Middle Ages, the Empyrean was both comfort and conundrum, a walled garden at the edge of existence, where human imagination collided with the unspeakable. What's startling is how this medieval vision mirrors one of modern cosmology's most haunting truths: the observable universe's limit. Just as the Empyrean marked the boundary of divine creation, our cosmic horizon represents the farthest light that's had time to reach us since the Big Bang, approximately 93 billion light-years in diameter. Beyond that, darkness, not because there's nothing there, but because the universe's expansion has stretched space-time to the point where distant photons will never catch up to us. Medieval theologians spoke of the Empyrean as the place where the stars go to rest. Today, astrophysicists describe the cosmic horizon as a cemetery of unreachable galaxies, their light eternally redshifting into oblivion. The parallels grow eerier when you examine their shared symbolism. Medieval star charts often depicted the Empyrean as a gilded membrane studded with eyes, echoing the modern concept of the cosmic microwave background radiation, that faint glow from the early universe sometimes called the face of God by astronomers. Both frameworks grapple with the same existential tension: the human desire to map the cosmos versus the crushing realization that some frontiers are fundamentally unknowable. A 14th-century Catalan atlas captures this beautifully, its outermost edge labeled Hic sunt dracones, here be dragons, not out of superstition, but as an admission that beyond a certain point, even the boldest cartographers could only surrender to mystery. Yet the Empyrean's greatest revelation might be its psychological power. By placing divinity at the universe's edge, medieval thinkers created a coping mechanism for cosmic loneliness, a reminder that even in an infinite void, there was a beyond where meaning resided. Modern cosmology, for all its equations, still wrestles with the same yearning. The holographic principle suggests that all information within our observable universe could be encoded on its boundary, a scientific echo of the Empyrean's role as cosmic ledger. Even the multiverse theory, with its infinite branching realities, feels like a secular reinterpretation of that outermost sphere, an attempt to preserve the idea that our universe is just one chamber in a grander, if inaccessible, architecture. So when you next look up at the night sky, remember, the darkness between stars isn't empty. It's the modern Empyrean, a threshold where light and time fray into questions we're still learning to ask. The medievals painted it in gold leaf and called it heaven. We measure it in redshift and call it the horizon, but both are compass needles trembling at the edge of the same abyss, pointing toward the only honest answer we've ever had: we don't know what lies beyond. And perhaps that's the most sacred truth of all. From the celestial choir's creation hymn to the silent watchers beyond the veil, these 35 legends are more than just stories. They're medieval Europe's love letter to the cosmos, written in starlight and parchment. What's breathtaking isn't just their creativity, but their shared yearning to reconcile the divine with the dazzling mechanics of the night sky. Every myth, every whispered tale of cosmic serpents or star-forged chalices was an attempt to stitch heaven and earth together, not with dogma but with wonder. When a monk traced zodiac signs in the margins of his prayer book or an alchemist sketched the ouroboros around a diagram of the planets, they were doing the same thing astronomers do today, searching for patterns in the chaos, seeking a bridge between the sacred and the measurable. Consider how many of these legends mirror the very forces science now confirms. The Firebird cycle of death and rebirth mirrors supernova nucleosynthesis, where dying stars scatter the elements of life across the void. The weaver's cosmic loom echoes string theory's vibrating filaments, while the clockwork cosmos finds its counterpart in the precision of orbital mechanics. Even the Book of Living Stars, that ancient belief that constellations archive history, resonates with quantum data storage and the holographic principle. Our ancestors may have dressed these truths in allegory, but their core intuition was startlingly prescient. The universe operates by rules both elegant and eerily familiar. Yet what's most poignant is how these myths reveal a shared human ache to feel connected to something grander than ourselves. When medieval farmers banged pots to scare the eclipse dragon or sailors navigated by the luminous ones of the Pleiades, they weren't just explaining nature, they were conversing with it. The stars weren't distant specks, but characters in an ongoing epic where humanity played a role. That's why these legends endure, not because they were right by modern standards, but because they transformed the cold vastness of space into a story we could belong to. So tell me, which of these celestial myths resonates with you? Is it the cosmic serpent, its endless coils a reminder that destruction seeds renewal? Or perhaps the bridge of souls, that shimmering pathway between realms? Drop your favorite in the comments below. Let's keep this ancient conversation alive. And if you're hungry for more deep dives where history and mystery collide, don't forget to subscribe. The cosmos is vast, and we've only just begun to trace its oldest stories together. Until next time, keep looking up. After all, the night sky isn't just a canopy of stars. It's the first story book humanity ever read, its pages still